Hey guys, Coach Kuiper here with another installment of Kuiper's Coaching Concepts. Today we're going to go through some of the basics of mechanical checkpoints with relation to the pitching mechanic. And in doing so, going to be focused on some of the keys to each position, as well as the watchouts, especially watchouts for some of the younger players. And then maybe a couple drills for each of these positions and watchouts. So if I can start with a general comment, you'll notice that the keys for each position really are the exact opposite, the complement of the watchouts. So it's if you do one well, then you're probably not a watch out for the other, but the reverse is true as well. Getting into it, one of the first things we'll start with is the wind-up step. It may not be as applicable for the youngest of kids, but we'll talk about it anyways. It's pretty brief and there's not a lot of drills to do with it. But one of the biggest things that I can mention, the only real main thing I want most people to focus on is keeping their head over their pivot foot. If they keep their head over their pivot foot, and by that I mean the throwing hand foot, then you reduce the amount of momentum or change in direction as you come into the balance point. What I see a lot of kids doing, the keys being keeping that head over the pivot, the watchouts being look for an excessive step, an excessive change in direction over the pivot foot, whether that be backwards or to the side. Now you can't really see that from that angle, but what we'll see sometimes is we'll see players go way off to the side, and you can see my head moving quite a ways from the pivot foot. Now there's not a lot of drills, just keep an eye on it. What I would recommend is taking a small step back into the side. If you take too far of a step back, you can end up rotating and losing your balance, or same thing to the side. Let's move on from there because it's pretty straightforward. May not apply to all the younger kids, but the older ones, I'd say just keep it a small step. If we move on to the set position, I'm joined by a fellow giant, number 3. Why don't you come and join us here? You're going to go ahead and show us the set position. So the set position is once you take the rubber and you're getting ready to take your sign. Well, after you take your sign for the older guys, but in younger leagues, you're going to engage with the rubber and get ready to pitch. This is going to be the stretch or the set position, but we're just going to jump right into the set position. Some of the basic keys I just want to emphasize are, we're just doing a set right now, is shoulder width apart and hands somewhere in the midline of the body. Now for older guys, I'd suggest having it up here so that you can be more ready for a pick over to a base or other plays. For the younger guys, I'm not too concerned about it as long as later on their glove and knee stay together and connected, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for right now, the set position, the keys, feet about shoulder width apart, glove somewhere in the midline of their body, and then eyes on home plate. All right. Now, Mason, if you want to show us some of the keys, or excuse me, some of the watchouts, some things we notice with some of the players is they'll come to this set position with their feet way too narrow or way too wide. And what will happen is when they try to go from one of those wide positions or from a narrow position to a balance, it can sometimes throw off their balance a little bit. And again, this is also kind of in preparation for later on when they need to be in an athletic position, being prepared to pick off from here. So we might as well get into a good position right now at a young early age. So one of those watchouts were too narrow, too wide, too narrow. Let's just stay about shoulder width apart. Pretty basic. The other thing that we see a lot, and let's go ahead and turn this off to the side. Go ahead and come set again. And we want to say you want to have your front shoulder, your front hip, your front heel, all sort of in line, focused on home plate. Now, one thing that we'll see sometimes is that front foot might be excessively closed on the set position or excessively open on the set position. And these are some things that, again, I would say are the watchouts. Not much in the way of drills other than taking a look at it and having a coach watch and maybe adjusting how far you go back. Now, what Mason had just showed on that excessively wide position is what some kids do in this hybrid younger little league scenario. Nope, should come shoulder width. So that wide position. Some kids will go from this stretch position and they'll take what's effectively a hybrid wind-up step backwards from this and then come up. Now, one of the things I'd watch out for here is this excessively large step as it relates to head movement or getting your body out of control so that you can't have control leading into the balance point. A lot of kids will take a big step back and then they'll swing into balance point. So that's one of the watchouts I'd say there. But let's go ahead and move on. So there's the wind up, there's the set position, and let's go ahead and get to balance.